Hello, this is Randy with Excel for Freelancers, and today we've got a really cool training for you where we're going to show you two different ways to have a help pop-up. One is on hover and the other is on click. So it's going to be a great training, so please stay tuned. Alrighty, let's get started. The basic idea and premise of this training is the idea that we want to offer some guidance or some help for the workbooks that we distribute. When I create workbooks or applications for my customers, it's great that I can offer them some guidance as to what the individual functions or features are. And we can do that with a pop-up help. And what we can do is we'll start off by adding a button. Okay, so we can add a button and we'll just choose the rounded rectangle here. And I usually like to put it up in the top. So we'll go ahead and put a button up there. And what I want to do is I want to make the text of this button variable. In other words, when the pop-up help is shown, I want it to say hide help, and when it's not shown, I want it to say show help. So we can do that by assigning the text of this particular shape to a specific cell. Okay, so if we were to create let's say cell A1 show help, and then we are to assign that cell with this text, we can do that simply with equals and then click on the particular cell, and now we have show help. That way, if we change this to hide help, it also changes within the button itself. So now we can go ahead and design this button how we would want to do it. Maybe perhaps an orange color or something like that. So we can do it here. Let's go ahead and give it that, and maybe we can increase the font a little bit, and let's go ahead and so we can see this. We'll go ahead and increase the font and go ahead and center that, and okay, that's good. Actually, we'll go ahead and add an icon there. So why don't we go ahead and add a little help icon by entering a picture, and I believe I have one saved here. So we will go ahead and add, that way it gives them a little context for that, so that they can easily, we'll go ahead and use that one, and just make that a bit smaller. All right, and we can go ahead and put that on the button. That gives them some kind of idea of how helpful that button's going to be. All right, let's see, that looks nice, and let's go ahead and group that. And so we're going to use the control button, and we're going to click on both of those, and we're going to group them together. That way it always stays together. And I've added group to shortcut here, but if you don't have it, you can also go ahead into page layout here and then click here and then group, and that'll group the two together. Okay, so the idea is that when we click this, we want to show the help, and click it again and it'll hide the help. So let's go ahead and create those helps, and we can do that with insert and shapes, and we'll go ahead and use one of the callouts here, and then we'll just go ahead and create some help with that. And let's go ahead and just say enter name here. Okay, some basic help. And then we'll go ahead and take care of these formatting here. And let's say we want to duplicate Control D, Control D, Control D. So we're going to show them different things throughout our application so that they can guide the user. And we'll say that this is the time clock history table. Your descriptions might obviously want to be a little bit more detailed. And here we can put our earnings history table. Okay, and then perhaps one more enter ID. Okay, so now we have our help. And then what we want to do is we want to take these shapes, all of our helps, and we want to group them together. And that's real important. That way we can show or hide them all at once. So holding down the click one, holding down the control, click the other, and the other. And we want to group all these four. So we can do that under here, also in the format, group, and then group. And then what we want to do is we want to assign a name to these particular shapes. Okay, so we can do that right here, and then we'll call it help group. Okay, no spaces. help group. Okay, so now this particular group has a name associated with it. Okay, and we can then what we do is through VBA we can hide or show that. Okay, so why don't we go into VBA now and show you how we're going to do that. All right, there's a few ways to get to the VBA. You can use Alt F11. You can also go for the Developers tab here and then click Visual Basic. If you do not have the Developers tab open, you can go into here under File and then Options, and then you can click Customize the ribbon and make sure you select the Developers ribbon here, and that's going to display that for you. So let's go ahead and go in there, Alt F11, and that'll pull up our VBA editor. Okay, next up what we want to do is we want to create a module. Okay, so we're going to put all of our macros in a module, so right click anywhere and then insert a module. And then what we want to do is for sure we want to name that module, okay, because when you have a lot of modules you want to know the difference between them as opposed to just module 1 or module 2. So we'll go ahead and click on the properties here, and that'll pull up this for me it's on the right side, and we'll just call this help max. Okay, anything to describe your macros. Make sure that the name that you assign to your module is never the same as the macro name. So macro names and module names must be different. All right, now for us what we're going to do is we want to basically create one macro that does both options. It both hides the pop-ups and it shows the help pop-ups. So our macro, will name it help, and then we'll call it, let's call it sub. Okay, sub show hide help. Okay, so that's going to be the sub, and basically what we want to do with it is if the user clicks it, if the help pop-ups are currently displayed, we want to hide them. If they're not displayed, we want to show them. So we can do that through just a few lines of code. And since we're going to be working only with sheet 1 here, we'll want to define that with sheet 1, okay? And everything, all of our code will end up between here, so we don't need to set that sheet 1 with any of our code. Okay, and first what we want to know is what is in A1, right? What is here? Is it saying hide help or is it saying show help? Okay, because that's going to tell us what the current state of our help is. Okay, so we can ask a simple if-then question. If dot range, okay, A1 dot value equals show help. Okay, and that means it's not shown, so we want to show it. Then what do we want to do? Then we want to show that entire help group. And we can do that through here. Dot shapes, okay, help group. Remember, that's the name we assign to the group of shapes. Help group dot visible equals true. Okay, basically it's saying if the show help is shown, we want to show it. Okay, and what we also want to do is we want to then change the text of A1. We want it to say hide help, right? We also want VBA to change this text to say hide help. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that with VBA, and we can simply do that with one line of code. Dot range, okay, A1 dot value equals hide help. Okay, all right, but else, what we're going to do else, so that means if it's not show help, then it's already hide help. In that case, we basically want to do the opposite. We want to hide this and we want to change the text. So we can do that simply by copying and paste. Okay, Control C, Control V. So we want to change this to false, right? We don't want to show it, equals false. Okay, and we want to change this text to show help. Okay, show help. All right, so basically it's that way we can, the same macro can do both show or hide the help. Okay, and now all we need to do is go back into Excel and we just need to assign a macro to this. Okay, and we can do that very easily. Just right click, assign macro, and we only have one created, so we'll just click there, show or hide help. Now when we click there and we click show help, it shows, and when we click hide, it's that simple. Okay, but I want to take this one step farther. Okay, what I want to do is I want to show you how you don't even have to click on Help. How we can actually program the ability to simply hover over the button to have it show. And we're going to do that right now. Also, if you like the clip, you can just right click and hide this, okay? You don't need to show that column. It's always nice to do that, so we don't need to show that column, a lot of users. And if you do want to show them, you can also just change the text color, right, to the same as the existing background. That's another way to hide it, just like that, and it's also hidden there, okay? But keep in mind, you don't want users to change that. All right, so next up, what I want to show you is the ability to hover. Now, with shapes, we cannot create a macro. We cannot create a macro by hovering over any shape, okay? It's just not in Excel. But what we can do is create a macro hover on a specific ActiveX. So in the Developers tab, okay, when we go to Insert, we can use this label, ActiveX control label. This particular one, we can create a macro based on hover. Okay, it's called MouseMove. Okay, so here we've created a label. Okay, and we're not going to use, and we'll double click it. Okay, that'll go into the VBA, and we don't need a name for this. Okay, we don't need a name. We want this clear. So just remove the name. Okay. And we're going to remove the colors and the border soon, but we want to see it for our purposes. So all I've done right now is remove the caption, remove the label, okay? And so the idea is that when they hover over this, we want it to show, okay? So let's go ahead and create the macros that are going to do this. It's very simple. It's just one line of code, okay? And we're going to go back into our help macros, and I'm going to create different macros, okay? I'm going to call this sub show help. Okay, and then I'm going to create another one that says sub hide help. Okay, with show help, it's very simple. All I want to do is basically show the help group. So all we have to do is copy this, and since it's just one line of code, we do want to enter the sheet here. Okay, so sheet 1 and then paste. Okay, sheet 1 show our help group. Okay, and then the same thing on sheet 1. And then paste, and then we'll go ahead and change that to false, okay? So all we're doing with this macro is we're showing it, and with this macro we're hiding it, okay? And now back into our Excel, and now the idea is when they hover over this, we want to show the help. So let's double click on this. And that's going to show us label 1, which we know of, but we're not going to be clicking it. We want to hover. So the important thing is to click mouse move. Remember that, mouse move. That's the one we want, okay? Let's remove this, okay, because we're not going to use a click. So everything we're going to do is a mouse move. And what do we want to do? We want to basically show the help. So the macro name that we created was called show help, okay? So now when we hover over that, it's going to run that macro, okay? Let's go ahead and hide it, okay? And now when I hover over this, it's going to show. You see? We'll hide it again, okay, with the button. And when we hover over it, it's going to show. Great. That's great, but how do we get it hidden? You know what I'm saying? Hovering will show it, and that's great, but when we move off the hover, we really want to hide it, right? Well, we can do that, okay? So let's go into design mode, and to work with these particular ActiveX, we must be in design mode, and when we're in design mode, it won't work, okay? So remember that. If it doesn't work, it's because you're in design mode. You take off design mode and it works. But design mode is the mode we use for working with these, okay? So right now we're going to place this right over our button, okay? We're going to place this right over, and what I want to do is I want to surround this button with 3 different shapes so that when a user hovers off, it disappears. Okay, and we can do that. Let's go ahead and enter one more. All right, well, we can just actually duplicate this one. Okay, Control D. Okay, and the idea with this one is that we want to surround that button with additional shapes that would actually, so let's go ahead and do that. And in this case, we're going to double click it, double click this one here. Okay, and again, we don't want it on click. We want it on mouse move. So let's go to mouse move. We'll delete this because we don't need it. And what do we want on mouse move? Well, we want to hide the help. Okay, on this one we want to hide the help. Okay, we also don't want a caption. It's not showing. That's good. Okay, and basically what I want to do now is I want to duplicate this 2 times. So I'm going to go Control D, Control D. Okay, now I'm going to take this and I'm going to surround my button. Okay, I'm going to take this one and I'm going to put it below it. And you want to make sure it's big enough so that they don't, that when they hover over it. Okay, so now the idea is, and we're going to make these transparent so it looks good, but for right now we want to see the shapes. Okay, so out of design mode. Okay, now when we hover over, it's gone. And we go back, it shows. Back over. Okay, and now the same thing here. And the same thing here. So now what we want to do is we want to assign those macros to this third one here. So let's go back in design mode, double click on this one, and the same thing for label 4 and label 3. We want to do that. Okay, so label 3 on MouseMove. Okay, hide help. Okay. And let's get rid of the click. Let's get rid of the click. And so now also label 4. Okay, label 4. We locate MouseMove. Okay, and simply hide help. Okay, and then all we have to do is clear that out, and that is good. Now we can test it. And remember, out of design mode. Okay, and now let's go ahead and hover. Okay, that works good. So that works great. So now what we want to do is we want to remove the transparency. We want to make them transparent. And so go back into design mode, click on here, holding the control button down, click, click, and click. Okay, so now we've selected all of them. And now we'll go into the properties. Okay, and I'll bring the properties over here so you can see them. And basically on these all, we want to make the back style transparent. Okay, and we want to make sure that the border is none. Right now it's none, so we're good to go. Okay, so back into Excel, out of design mode, and now let's go ahead and remove this. Now when we hover over it, it shows the help, and we go out, it's hidden, over, hidden. Okay, so that's how we create a help on Hover. I hope you like this lesson. It's not as long as the other one, so I'm sure you're appreciative of that one. But thank you very much. Your likes, your shares, and your appreciation and comments are always loved. Thank you so much, and until the next one, enjoy.